Ever wonder if the person sleeping next to you is a stranger? One moment, my life was a comforting, predictable tapestry. The next, it unraveled from a single innocuous detail, a silken scarf I'd never seen before, draped carelessly over the living room armchair. Not the delicate linen she usually favored, but a rich, exotic print I knew wasn't mine, nor hers, from any recent purchase. It was Friday. Bronte had left that morning for a wellness retreat with her gallery colleagues. But the scarf, like a misplaced clue in a cryptic puzzle, whispered of a different story. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about my marriage dissolved. Her voice, usually a bright melody, had been subtly flat on Thursday night. Her goodbye kiss, overly effusive, felt more like a performance than affection. "You don't need to hover, Kian. I'm a big girl," she chirped, a phrase more suited to a chaperone than a devoted partner. Each memory, now filtered through the lens of that scarf, became a chilling premonition. My name is Kian Nansen. I'm not the sort to leap to conclusions, nor do I rifle through phones or lurk in digital shadows. For years, I'd consciously avoided becoming the cliché of an insecure spouse, translating every hushed moment into a conspiracy. But that vibrant foreign scarf, it ignited a cold, hard knot of dread in my gut. She departed Friday for a supposed exclusive wellness retreat with two associates from the gallery. Yoga instructors, she'd specified. As usual, I remained home, meticulously tending to our space, polishing the floors, caring for her cherished orchids, even detailing her convertible. My intention was a grand welcome home, a gesture of unwavering devotion. Instead, the real surprise arrived not from me, but from a forgotten contact. Ever had a ghost from your past resurface with an impossible question? Darian Vance. I barely recalled him, a distant acquaintance who'd relocated to the city's trendy downtown 2 years prior. His text pinged late Saturday night. "Hey, odd query. Is Bronte in town this weekend? Swore I spotted her at the Ember Lounge in the Arts District. She wasn't wearing her ring, so I didn't approach. But it was definitely her, I think." I reread Darian's message. Twice. Then a third time. My gaze drifted back to the living room, to the defiant splash of color from that unknown scarf. I scrolled through her social media. Nothing. No vibrant stories, no curated posts, no telltale location stamps. I checked Coral Alistair's profile, her close friend and colleague. An identical digital void. The familiar suffocating heat climbed into my chest, that primal sensation that warns you your foundation is crumbling, and the tremors are only just beginning. I didn't reply to Darian. I didn't rage. I didn't dial her number. Instead, I calmly opened my laptop. I sifted through digital statements, bank alerts, archived correspondence. Not in search of irrefutable proof, that much was already chillingly clear. No, I was meticulously constructing something far more impactful. Here's what no one tells you about betrayal. It can turn you into a strategist overnight. I was building her unmaking, silently, precisely, mirroring the stealth with which she had, presumably, discarded her wedding band. That night, sleep was a cruel joke. I lay in the suffocating darkness, my eyes fixed on the ceiling, as if answers were etched into the shadows. My phone rested face down on the nightstand, a silent sentinel, its screen shielding me from any further digital revelations. Anger hadn't yet ignited. What churned inside me was far more insidious, a desperate, lingering hope. Hope that Darian had been mistaken, that perhaps her ring was on a delicate chain around her neck, that there was a perfectly logical explanation for a scarf that felt so alien in our home. But hope, I was about to discover, is the most perilous burden when the object of your faith has already severed the ties. By dawn, my resolution was cast in iron. No dramatic scenes, no furious accusations. If she had secrets, I intended to excavate the full extent of her deception, and crucially, uncover any co-conspirators. So I began making discreet inquiries. My first call was to Darian Vance. Yes, I confirmed, it was her. I probed for more details. His tone instantly shifted, a realization dawning that he'd stumbled into perilous territory. Yet he spoke. He described her companion, a man appearing several years younger, with an impeccably sharp haircut and a distinctive leather bracelet. He recalled Bronte frequently touching his arm, her laughter echoing a little too brightly, a sound that used to belong exclusively to me. Next, I reached out to Coral Alistair's husband, Silas. We weren't intimates, but our paths had crossed sufficiently at various couples' functions to avoid awkwardness. I feigned an elaborate surprise, casually inquiring about the precise location of the girls' retreat. He paused and then offered, "Oh, they didn't mention the glamping spot. I thought they were at a mountain wellness center." This clashed sharply with Bronte's own narrative. A rustic, off-grid cabin, purely for female bonding. Piece by agonizing piece, my reality fractured. And still, I maintained my silence. Sunday evening, she returned, gliding in as if her absence had been entirely innocuous. Her blonde hair fell flawlessly, her shoulders bore a subtle, golden tan, and in her hand, she clutched a kitschy local crafts mug. "Honey, I'm home. Did you miss me terribly?" she chirped. I offered a curt nod, my heart hammering against my ribs, but forced a credulous smile. I even brewed her favorite herbal tea. She kicked off her heels, sank onto the plush velvet couch, and requested a foot massage. I complied. I actually did, compelled by an unnerving need to gauge the depths of her charade. Later, as the shower steamed up the bathroom, I searched her overnight tote. Tucked beneath luxury facial wipes and a half-used bottle of artisanal rose shampoo, I discovered a receipt from a chic downtown bistro. 2 gourmet dinners, 1 bill. My hands trembled almost imperceptibly as I captured a photo with my phone. She emerged from the bathroom, enveloped in a towel, radiating a serenity I hadn't witnessed in weeks. She kissed me, a soft brush of lips, as if no deceit tainted the air between us. I returned the kiss, but deep within my chest, something vital had already withered. It wasn't merely trust, it was respect. I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't plead, I wouldn't even level an accusation. My path was clear. I would meticulously construct the exit she was blissfully unaware of. What if the best revenge isn't served cold, but in silent, surgical precision? And it began the following morning, with an appointment I'd never imagined making. A consultation with a solicitor. The morning after her return, I remained in bed until I heard her car pull away. From my pillow, I listened to her cheerful humming drift from the kitchen, a stark contrast to the sacred bond she'd fractured mere days earlier. The moment the front door clicked shut and her convertible disappeared down the drive, I sat up, raked a hand through my dark hair, and fixated on the wall. I wasn't procrastinating, I was grieving. Grieving the man who still believed the greatest marital transgression would be a forgotten anniversary. That man was irrevocably gone. In his stead sat a new Kian Nansen, calculating, profoundly silent, and eerily serene. I brewed coffee, not for solace, but for clarity. Seated at the gleaming kitchen island, I opened my laptop to my email. The draft, penned at 2 a.m. and revised thrice, addressed to a prominent local family law solicitor, awaited. My finger hovered over send for only a moment before committing. The subject line was stark. Urgent and discreet consultation required. I allowed no room for second thoughts. Closing the laptop, I retrieved a leather-bound journal from a hidden drawer. Within its pages, I began to chronicle everything. The peculiar scarf, the bistro receipt, Darian's cryptic message. Not merely as an inventory, but as an anchor. A stark reminder that I wasn't unhinged, that the subtle manipulation I'd sensed for years wasn't imaginary. It was devastatingly real. That afternoon, the solicitor's assistant called. Her voice was unexpectedly compassionate. She offered a virtual or in-person meeting. I chose the latter. I needed to articulate the words, to witness my truth reflected in another's eyes. "I believe my wife is unfaithful," I stated, my voice steady despite the tremor deep inside, "and I intend for her departure to be a complete surprise." The gaze of Moira Hughes, the solicitor, a woman with striking silver-streaked hair and an aura of formidable competence, was something I'll never forget. Not pity, not fleeting sympathy, but a profound, almost primal respect. As if she'd witnessed this narrative countless times, yet recognized the raw, unique pain within my retelling. She posed incisive questions, her pen flying across her notepad, outlining various legal avenues. I nodded, absorbing little, the blood thrumming a fierce rhythm in my ears. Then her words pierced through the mental fog, anchoring me back to the present. Your silence is your most potent weapon, Moira declared. Do not allow emotion to dictate your timing. I nodded, a profound clarity settling over me. She was utterly right. This wasn't about impulsive vengeance. It was about meticulously unweaving my financial ties, reclaiming my dignity, safeguarding my future. If Bronte believed I remained oblivious to her transgression, she would persist in her deception. And as she continued to lie, I would continue to prepare. Ready to learn how a hidden truth can redefine your entire future? That evening, I maintained a facade of normalcy. She recounted her day at the gallery. I inquired about her preference for an Italian takeaway. She nestled beside me on the sofa as we immersed ourselves in a gripping, true crime documentary. The bitter irony nearly choked me. I could feel the steady rhythm of her heart against my chest through my shirt. My hands were trembling as I did this, yet I kept the mask on. How, I wondered, could someone embody such warmth and such chilling detachment simultaneously? Before sleep claimed us, she whispered, "Thank you for being so wonderful this weekend, Kian." That space truly revitalized me. I smiled, but in the depths of my being, a cruel certainty sparked. I intended to grant her all the space she desired, permanently. The first undeniable fissure appeared on a quiet Wednesday night. It was subtle, easily overlooked by an unsuspecting eye. But when you're hunting for deceit, even daylight casts suspicious shadows. Bronte was at her sleek workstation, ostensibly engrossed in a charity gala planning document for the gallery. I was at the sink, rinsing dishes, forcing myself to ignore the unsettling scent of her new fragrance. It wasn't the delicate gardenia I'd gifted her last holiday season. This was a deeper, muskier, far more sensual aroma, one she clearly hadn't worn for me. She excused herself to take a call, mouthing "coral" as she left the room. I seized the infinitesimal window of opportunity. I approached her laptop and gently tapped the spacebar. The screen instantly flickered to life. No passwords, no intricate lock screens. Such was the extent of her trust in me. What she hadn't anticipated was the complete erosion of my trust in her. A single tab remained open. Google Drive, displaying a shared folder titled Coastal Retreat Photos. What I'm about to show is banned in 12 countries, but I had to see. I clicked, overriding the last vestiges of my conscience. Initially, the images seemed innocuous enough. Artfully arranged wine glasses, plush spa robes, breathtaking coastal vistas. But then he materialized. A man in a tailored black linen shirt, aviator sunglasses, leaning just a fraction too intimately into my wife in no fewer than 3 separate frames. The most damning detail, in one shot, her left hand rested casually on his shoulder. No wedding band, no faint tan line where it should have resided. And her smile, it wasn't a candid, spontaneous grin. It was soft, almost practiced, as if she'd offered it to him countless times before, a silent invitation to remember. I swiftly copied the folder link to my phone, emailed it to myself, and closed the tab a nanosecond before she re-entered the room. I kept my back to her, feigning an intense concentration on drying the same ceramic plate for what felt like an eternity. "Coral's being so dramatic," she sighed, a faint roll of her eyes. "Convinced her boyfriend's cheating again. Honestly, it's beyond me how folks can betray trust so casually with someone they supposedly love." The plate nearly slipped from my grasp. I forced a nod, the words scraping past my clenched jaw. "A mystery to me, truly." She swept past me, placing a light, almost dismissive kiss on my cheek before ascending the stairs. I remained rooted in the kitchen, staring at the empty space where her mug had sat. My hands were shaking now, not from sorrow, but from an electrifying certainty. That night, sleep was a distant memory. I lay rigid beside her, listening to the rhythmic cadence of her breath, my gaze fixed on the ceiling. My mind replayed the stranger's face, the glint of his sunglasses, the casual intimacy of his hand on her lower back. I wondered about his name. Lorcan, perhaps. I wondered how many clandestine weekends it had taken for him to eclipse my decade of devotion. By morning, a meticulously detailed plan solidified. I wasn't merely going to depart. I would allow her to excavate her own grave, deepening the pit of her deception until she was so utterly submerged that the ground would simply vanish beneath her feet. I systematically forwarded more data to myself, intricate bank transactions, telling email exchanges, revealing call logs. 95% of people miss this simple trick to uncover hidden truths. I even installed a discreet, password-free keystroke logger on our shared home computer. Judge me if you will. I wasn't driven by petty revenge. I craved incontrovertible evidence. I needed to know, with absolute certainty, if she was still choosing him. And if she was, I needed her to incriminate herself in her own words. But I was unprepared for the raw, unedited truth I was about to unearth. Because the next time she slipped, it wouldn't be in a static folder. It would be live. It began as a perfectly ordinary Thursday. She departed early, claiming a pivotal outreach breakfast for the gallery with a potential benefactor, a reclusive collector, reputedly possessing boundless wealth and an eclectic taste for kinetic sculpture. She dressed the part flawlessly, a tailored blazer, subtle nude lipstick, that specific ensemble she donned when she aimed for gravitas without intimidation. She pressed a fleeting kiss to my forehead while I feigned drowsiness, murmuring, "Try not to starve, darling. You know how you get." As if I were a child, not the husband she was so elaborately betraying. The instant the door clicked shut, I was fully awake. I rolled over, retrieved my phone from beneath the pillow, and activated the tracker. I hadn't disclosed this detail earlier, but after discovering that coastal retreat folder, I had covertly installed a silent location sharing application on her device. I despised the man I was becoming, the insidious stealth that had become my modus operandi. But once trust evaporates, its void is swiftly occupied by a gnawing paranoia. That morning, the app revealed she wasn't heading toward the gallery. Her trajectory was westward, directly into the heart of the city. Not a bustling breakfast cafe, not a revered art institution, but a hotel. A particularly exclusive boutique hotel, known for its rooftop dining and a bar that remained firmly closed until midday. Breakfast indeed. I pulled on faded jeans and a dark hoodie, willing the tremors in my hands to subside. I had no concrete strategy. Was I to catch her in flagranti? Stage a public confrontation? No. All I craved was confirmation, immediate, undeniable. Something I could later recall and affirm. You were justified in abandoning the charade. I parked 2 blocks away and proceeded on foot. The hotel's entrance, a shimmering expanse of glass and polished brass, reflected the morning sun. I concealed myself behind a large ornamental planter across the street, and I waited. 20 minutes crawled by. Then she emerged from the elevator, accompanied by him, the very man from the illicit photos. Lorcan Byrne, same distinctive leather bracelet, same swaggering gait, as if the entire world danced to his rhythm. Bronte walked beside him, her hand grazing his arm, her face illuminated by that identical soft smile, the one I'd once believed was reserved solely for me. They strolled to a charming sidewalk cafe just around the corner, settling outside, sipping their drinks, and laughing with an unsettling ease. At one point, she reached across the small table, her fingers briefly caressing his wrist. Intimate, careless, utterly natural. Hush, Sherm. That's what no one tells you about watching your world burn. The smallest, most natural gestures can be the most devastating. That was the deepest cut. How effortlessly it all seemed, as if this was routine, as if they had been a unit long before this. Or perhaps I was simply the convenient interlude. I took photographs, not for public consumption, not for extortion, but solely for myself. For the inevitable moment she would lie again, for the day I would finally utter those 2 simple words. I know. Then I departed as silently as I had arrived. I didn't return home. I sat in my car 3 blocks away, staring blankly at my phone for a solid hour. My mouth was bone dry, my mind a hollow tunnel. I wasn't even angry. I was utterly hollowed out, as if she had painstakingly scooped something irreplaceable from within me. By the time I returned home, she was already there, nestled in her luxurious loungewear, feigning a lengthy, uninspiring breakfast. I inquired about her morning. She delivered her well-rehearsed monologue, discussing contemporary art movements, securing new grants, and intricate project timelines. I nodded, not interrupting once. She offered a small, appreciative smile, proud of the man who still believed her narratives. But that man no longer existed. Now I possessed everything I needed. All that remained was meticulous timing. The peculiar paradox of profound betrayal is the unexpected courtesy it demands. I continued to brew her artisanal coffee each morning. I still chuckled at her thinly veiled jests. I even folded her delicate silk blouses, placing them precisely on the bed, a dutiful, unseen attendant. She interpreted this as a softening, a slow healing, perhaps the stress of her wellness retreat finally dissipating. She had no inkling that I was merely extending the rope, and with every casual lie, she was cinching it tighter around her own neck. I decided to await one final, irrevocable misstep, one last brazen maneuver from which she couldn't retreat. I knew her to be cunning, but not infallible. Individuals who navigate double lives often succumb to the delusion of their own superior intellect, and that I knew was precisely when they became sloppy. Friday night, as she scrolled through her phone with a small, satisfied smirk, undoubtedly messaging him mere feet away, I casually proposed a weekend escape to her parents' remote coastal cottage, just the two of us. She regarded me as if I'd just suggested a compulsory tax audit. "Oh, Kian, I wish," she purred, stretching languidly. "But the spring showcase at the gallery demands my presence early Sunday. Perhaps next month?" I didn't press. I nodded, feigned understanding, and inquired if she preferred gourmet Italian for dinner. That night, I dispatched an email from a fabricated client account I'd meticulously crafted weeks prior, requesting a private commission consultation at the gallery for Sunday morning. Her gallery notably observed Sunday closures. The instant her reply arrived, "We're closed that day. Could we arrange Monday instead?" I knew with absolute certainty there was no showcase. She simply needed the weekend clear. I waited 2 full days. Then I booked the coastal cottage for myself and left her a succinct note. "Taking your advice, darling. Giving myself some much-needed space." She texted once, "You okay?" I replied, "I am." She didn't pursue it further. I suspect she cared less about my whereabouts and more about my absence. Act now or regret it later. My decision was made. And that was when the true trap began to close. I concealed a tiny, unobtrusive device behind a row of art books in the living room. It resembled a common phone charger. It was not. I then embedded a miniature camera within the frame of an abstract decorative sculpture, its lens subtly angled toward the plush sofa. Not because I yearned for a physical spectacle, nor did I crave a grand dramatic confrontation. I merely yearned for truth. And as painful as the admission was, I knew she would usher him back into our home the moment I departed. She had done so before. Why would this time be any different? That night, from the quiet solitude of the coastal cottage, I accessed the live feed. My heart seized. She wasn't alone. Lorcan entered through the discreet side door, with the practiced ease of someone who possessed a key or knew the precise location of our spare. She handed him a drink before he'd even shed his jacket. They settled intimately on the couch, whispering, laughing. I couldn't discern their words, but I didn't need to. It was her soliloquy, uttered after his departure, that froze me solid. She ambled into the kitchen, still basking in that private smile, and spoke aloud to herself. I caught only one sentence, clear as a bell. "He'll never suspect a thing. Never." I closed my laptop and a slow, chilling smile spread across my face. She was right. I had no idea how profoundly her deception ran. But she had even less idea of what was coming next. I granted her one more week, one more agonizing span of silence, feigning an unchanged reality, pretending I was still the same husband, too blind to see beyond his own shadow. I needed the time to meticulously arrange every detail, disentangling finances, preparing crucial documents, securing the discreet apartment I'd leased under a different surname. I desired an immaculate exit, not merely dramatic, but devastatingly surgical. I didn't want her histrionics, no tears, no screams. I wanted her utterly frozen, speechless, trapped within the elaborate theater of her own making, with the house lights abruptly, brutally, illuminating the stage. The final act commenced with a dinner invitation. That Friday evening, I proposed we host a small, intimate supper at our residence, just the two of us, plus a couple of mutual acquaintances she hadn't encountered in months. People outside her curated professional circle, individuals to whom she couldn't easily manipulate or spin elaborate narratives. She hesitated, then agreed, likely interpreting it as yet another indication of my softening. She had even resumed wearing her wedding ring full-time, as if its presence could somehow erase the transgressions committed by her hands in its absence. The day of the dinner, I declared I would manage every detail: the elaborate meal, the meticulous cleaning, even the artful table setting. She laughed, observing I was trying too hard. Perhaps I was, but not in the way she imagined. For while she was out selecting vintage wine and bespoke floral arrangements, I was finalizing the digital dossier. From an anonymous email address, crafted weeks prior, I dispatched the package. Screenshots, video snippets, her hushed words, her careless laughter, her chilling monologue in the kitchen when she thought no one was listening. Each message concluded with a stark, simple query. If you recognize this person, perhaps inquire about her missing wedding ring. I didn't send them to our shared friends. I sent them to her people, her co-workers, her esteemed gallery director, her favorite yoga instructor, even her younger brother, the same brother who once told me I was the best thing that had ever happened to her. I ensured impeccable timing. Every email was programmed to land in their inboxes at precisely 6:15 p.m., exactly 15 minutes after our supposed dinner guests were due to arrive. She prepared herself as if for any other social occasion, casually elegant, flawlessly made up, in a flowing silk blouse. She even selected Warawan playlists on the smart speaker, the exact melodies from our wedding dinner. Perhaps she believed the sentimental tunes would assuage my unspoken tension. All they did was underscore the depth of what she had callously dismantled. At 6 o'clock, she inquired if any of our guests had messaged about running late. No, I replied smoothly. At 6:12, she poured exquisite Bordeaux into crystal glasses, delicately adjusting the linen napkins. At 6:16, her phone illuminated. Then again, and again. One by one, the notifications streamed in. A buzz, a chime, a subtle vibration. A profound shift distorted her carefully composed features, a change even she couldn't suppress. Her practiced smile vanished. Her elegant shoulders stiffened visibly. She slowly lifted her phone, unlocked the screen, and simply stared, as if the device itself had betrayed her before I ever had the chance. For a full 30 seconds, perhaps longer, her eyes remained fixed. When she finally lifted her gaze, her face was ashen, her jaw clenched tight, the delicate wine glass trembling precariously in her hand. "What have you done, Kian?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I simply uttered 7 words. "Where did your commitment go, Bronte?" She offered no immediate reply. Her mouth parted slightly, but no sound escaped. I watched her eyes dart around the opulent room, searching desperately for an escape, a way to rewind time, to scramble from the brutal spotlight I had thrust her into. But there was no exit. Not anymore. Everything was already circulating, laid bare in the inboxes of the very people who knew her best. Her meticulously sculpted narrative of our marriage disintegrated in her trembling hands, and all she could do was stare, aghast at the shattered fragments. "Please, I can clarify," she finally managed, her voice barely a gasp. "It wasn't like that, Kian. I swear it was complex. Complex." That was the term she chose to describe months of calculated deceit, clandestine rendezvous, and the conscious decision to discard her wedding ring as if it were a mere inconvenient accessory. I didn't interrupt. I didn't need to. I simply rose, walked to the table, and picked up the glass of Bordeaux I had poured for myself. Quietly, I delivered my final statement. You'll be perfectly adept at this new life, love. You've been rehearsing for months. Her face utterly collapsed. For the first time in years, her polished composure shattered. She looked utterly lost, and in that moment, I felt no pity. I felt an overwhelming peace. I walked into the master bedroom, retrieved the single bag I had already packed, and laid the house keys gently on the marble counter. She didn't follow me. She didn't plead. She simply stood in the archway, one hand clasped over her mouth, watching the man she believed was irrevocably hers finally, definitively, walk away. That was half a year ago. I reside in a compact apartment now, not opulent, but unequivocally mine. I've rekindled my passion for journaling, delving into the quiet introspection I'd long neglected. And I've taken up abstract photography, a dream deferred. I've even embarked on a new relationship. Slowly, tenderly, honestly, she knows every detail. And remarkably, she remains. Sometimes we share a quiet laugh about the profound healing that blossoms when you finally choose yourself. As for Bronte, I heard through the grapevines she relocated to a different gallery. We haven't exchanged a single word since that night. I bear her no ill will, but neither do I harbor any desire for her return. Because here's the unvarnished truth. I spent so long tethered to the idealized version of her I had fallen in love with, so consumed by the fear of letting go, that I failed to notice she had severed her connection to me long ago. The moment she slipped off that wedding band and smiled in the process was, ironically, the precise moment she truly liberated me. She simply didn't grasp the extent of that freedom until I stopped waiting for her to care.